super concept-oriented, not always stuck in their stuff, and you surround them with a bunch of high-energy, positive, abundant people, do they fit in? Do they feel like a fish out of water? They start gasping for air and they excuse themselves from the room. That's what you need to do. You have that persistence and that consistent. Think about that oxygen-rich environment. That's your job as a leader, to create that kind of environment. So what do you need to do? Your job is when you start building your teams and your team starts sponsoring people, is you need to become what we call search and develop, S&D. Search for talent and develop potential. Search for talent and develop potential. So let's talk a little bit about that. First of all, it starts with a philosophy, I believe, in looking at this as a long term, because we don't know when a green apple is going to go red. There's been times when I've had people on my team that and right now I have a guy who was with me for 5 or 6 years. He lost 80 pounds. He gained a little bit back. He's back on the program. He's lost 20 of the pounds that he gained back, and he's finally saying, I got to become a coach. You never know. So the philosophy is build trust over time. It takes a while to build this trust, to build this relationship over time. Then you want to focus on adding value, because if you're focused on their goals, their why, what they want to accomplish, they will sense it, they will have loyalty with you, and they will see you as a valued resources, and they will be coachable for you. You got to come with abundance, and I want you to realize this, is that when I'm meeting somebody as a client, potential client, I'm evaluating them in the back of my mind, is this a fit? It's an interview for me and them. They're learning about our program, and I'm going to share with them what our program's about, but I'm interviewing them just as much because I'm not sure I want to commit to them yet. So you got to come from that abundance and be willing to walk away. Are there people that just aren't a fit for our business or our program?
Yes.
Yeah. Be willing to walk away from that. And then once you do this and you find somebody that is ready and they want to go and you start adding value, there's a law of reciprocation. They will want to reciprocate. They want to help out with referrals. They want to help out with building the business. They will want to reciprocate. And that moves you into the strategy of really sorting. Professionals sort, amateurs sell. Amateurs try to motivate and convince and get. Okay? Professionals offer, pay attention, watch and observe, and sort for talent and potential. And what I recommend is I had a chance to meet back in the day when I used to work with Tony Robbins. I was able to speak to some really powerful teachers and trainers. And this was a guy who was the #1 recruiter in a company that had been around for 20 years. And he is the world record holder in sponsoring the most distributors in this company. And he just got doing a talk on the 80-20 rule. And he was talking about how 20% of the people do 80% of the results. And I go, hey, Doug, how do you know whether somebody's going to be a 20%er or an 80%er? And he goes, Greg, you know what? In all the years I've been doing this for 30 years, I can tell you this. The ones you think won't, will. The ones you think will, won't. He goes, I cannot tell you. After 30 years of doing this, I don't know. So here's my philosophy. I used to be a football teacher. That's what he said. I used to be a football coach. He goes, my job is not to decide who's going to make the team. My job is to give everyone a playbook, give them a jersey and a helmet, and give them a chance to get on Hell Week and show them what they can do. I just give them a jersey, let them get on the field, and let their actions speak for their commitment, their coachability. By watching them, I can tell who's going to make the roster, who's not going to make it, and I can tell who's going to be on the starting lineup and who's going to be on the second and third team. That's a professional. You're sorting for talent and developing the potential. Does that make sense? And become attractive because, again, if you want to attract more coaches and better coaches, you need to become a better coach. You have to get better at the skills. And that sometimes means I love Stan and Pat because they are so humble and they're so coachable. And there's no surprise as to why their business keeps doubling every year. I mean, I can go back from when we started doing structural tension with you guys back at Sundance, and it was like you were there by yourself with a couple of people, and then next year you're there with a team, and then Cheryl's in the pattern. And you set a pattern of duplication for your team, and then Cheryl started duplicating that pattern. And then now Cheryl's team is duplicating that pattern because they're super coachable. And they work on themselves. And that's what it takes. You have to be really willing to come to these meetings, put aside your concepts, break through your fears, and get uncomfortable. Because sometimes it's going to take time to get uncomfortable. So there are 5 stages. I started mentioning when we had the panel here. This is right out of the business blueprint. This is not only for coach acquisition, but it's also for client acquisition. But notice the word I'm choosing to use here. 5 stages of screening candidates. Right now, I'm not even sure I'm going to give them the book and the jersey. I'm in this stage where I'm like, hey, I just got to get to know you first. Let's start with that. So the first step is identify. Let's go through this again. Identify means asking questions to find out their intrinsic what? Motivation. Their intrinsic motivation, their wants, their needs, their hot buttons. What they care about. What's important to them. WIFM, right? What's most important to them. Once you identify that there is a need, then you want to listen, pay attention to their body language, and you want to be asking yourself, are they a fit for us? Do they have the right stuff to make it on this team? Do they have the right attitude? So what are some of the traits that are in the folder system that we look for? If they are doing what? Number one, if they are coachable. Yeah. Are they on program? Are they referring people? Do they have a positive outlook? Yeah. Do they have a center of influence? Right? All these things are, and the other thing that I look about is I look at the readiness. And I just put those rules 3 simple buckets. Red apple, green apple, rotten apple. So I looked at, are there people that have all the right talents and skills and stuff like that, but the timing is off? They're a green apple? Sure. Are there people that have all the talents and skills, but they're a rotten apple? The mindset isn't there. They don't have the coachability. Their ego's too big. They come in puffed up and they're all bragging about what they used to do, and they think that that's going to make them successful here. You know, but you look at the presidentials and the globals and the people who are successful, it's all walks of life. Yeah, everything from, peak of your industry to somebody who's just, every day, working home mom, driving a truck, you got everything in between. It's not about the background. Matter of fact, sometimes that background can get in the way of this business more than it helps. So you got to ask questions to see if they're a fit. Then you approach them. And what the approach is not the presentation. This is when a lot of people blow it and they start going into verbal vomit. And they just start throwing up all over them and they start presenting. The approach is you feed back what you identified that they want. You feed back what you identify are some of their traits that might help them be successful. And the approach is you tell your story of what this has done for you, and you invite them to take a look at it. That's it. I'm not sure if this is for you, but based on our conversation, you sound really interested in health and wellness. You don't sound like you're really having fun with your current job. You sound like you'd like to have more time with your family and for pursuing, golf, because that sounds like it's really one of your favorite passions in life. And it seems like if you keep doing what you're doing, you're not going to get more of that in your life. I think you have great potential. Getting to know you as a client, you got a great attitude, people love you, you're really coachable. I would enjoy working with you, but I'm not sure if this is for you. So what I like to do is when I started as a coach, the first thing I did was I went to a meeting and I met the whole company. I got to see the big picture. And since I've become a coach, it's been the best decision I've ever made. So I'd like to offer you something. I have a meeting coming up, and I'd like you to see what this company is all about so that you can make an informed decision to see if this is something you like to pursue. Do you have your calendar in front of you? Sure. Well, I've got an event on this day, or I've got an event on that day. What's better for you? And so I'm not presenting anything right now. I'm inviting them to come so that they can do what? I have a little acronym here. What's MID stand for? Make an informed decision. I want to give them the control, autonomy. I have something I believe in, but I'm not sure it's for you. But I'd love for you to have enough information to make an educated decision. Why don't you come to the next meeting? And then that's it. You book the appointment and that's it. You're done. Then you follow up and you get them to the meeting, and then that's when the presentation happens. At your stage of the game, many of you should have your expert presenting. True or false? Unless you are a micro-franchise, regional or national, you should probably still be learning how to fly this plane solo. That means you got to have your co-pilot there and they're presenting, and then you use that third-party credibility, you use the tools, you give them a complete overview, and then you ask them if they're ready to make a decision. Is this something you'd like to take the next step on? Then the next step is you sponsor them, and that's when the work really begins. Because the relationship takes a whole new level when you guys agree to do business together and you guys agree to partner in this business. So you get them started, you teach them the systems, you guide them through the systems. I like this practice partner concept that came up at Go Global, where instead of telling somebody to read a chapter and make their list and go out and talk to people about it, it's just like you get a little huddle. Let's get a little practice group together. You pick 5 or 10 people that love you and they'd be happy to just learn with you and allow you to practice on them. And tell them there's not going to be any sales presentation. It's not going to be a hard close. It's basically your mentor, me, I'm going to teach you how to present the program and answer questions. And your job is to take notes and learn. But we need real people there to ask real questions. So you bring your people there, put the pressure off, you do it, let them watch, see one, do one, teach one. Okay? GST. Oh, getting started training. You got to get people out of the gates. And so we've used the TTS website, we use the Getting Started checklist. We're going to go into all that detail tomorrow on the folder system. One other thing that's important to do is evaluate, not only with your mentor, but with yourself. And I think a lot of people, what they do is when things don't go well, do they give themselves praise or they beat themselves up? They beat themselves up. And so one of the things that I think is important to do is to make sure you ask 3 questions. Write these down. Number 1, what went well? What did I do well? Even if you have to stretch, get creative, come up with something you did well. I showed up. I brought the meal replacements. Whatever. Yeah, I didn't sneeze on them. But take some time to identify those things you did well, because it's very easy for us to beat ourselves up. The next question is, what did I learn? Not what did I do wrong or how did I mess up? What did I learn? How many of you'd agree that if you learn from every experience, even if it's not the outcome you want, if you learn from it, it can still be what? It can still be success. It can still be valuable, right? So what did I learn? And then the final thing is to get you out of where you are and taking the next step is, what's my next step? How am I going to use what I just learned to move my business forward? What's my next step? And I think what a lot of people do is they start worrying about all the steps. And I want to caution you here. You do not need to know step A through Z to be successful in this business. Just like you don't need to know if you were driving from here to Dr. A's house, right? You don't need to know every turn along the way right now. Right now, you need to know maybe the next 3 or 4 turns, right? What to watch out for, the freeway signs. So you don't need to know A through Z. You just need to know A, B, and C. And when you get to C, you need to know E, F, G. So don't get too far into how many steps. Just get the next couple steps going. And one of the things is emotional intelligence. Just really practice the things that we teach with Habits of Health. Stop, challenge, and choose. Feelings are much like waves. We can't stop them from coming, but we can choose which ones to surf. And I got to tell you, when a wave is coming, a big one, if you're in the right position, it can be the ride of your life. And that's not a very big wave, but that's me down in Nicaragua, and I got to tell you, I'm having fun right there. That guy's in the wrong position. That's not a fun place to be. His heart is breathing through his breath, and he feels like those people in the car accident last night. He's getting ready to go for the ride of his life, and not in a good way. This wave is happening. This is a movement. How many of you would agree that whether you're here or not, a year from now, our business is going to move on to becoming a household name? How many of you agree with that? This wave is coming. But here's what happens. If you're sitting in the water and a big wave comes by, what happens? You go up and you go down, and it goes right past you. In order for you to catch that wave, you got to paddle your heart out as hard as you can to get up as much energy so that you're close to the same energy of the speed of that wave. Because if you get up at the right time and you drop in on that wave, you're going to have the time of your life. But if you hesitate, like this guy did, he hesitated. He didn't paddle hard enough. He didn't get up quick enough. And then the wave took him and took him for a ride. So realize this. You don't need to know everything we taught you today. You don't have to know everything that you're going to learn this weekend. You need to have a direction, and you need to be tethered to somebody who does. See, this guy here can't see the path that this guy can see from here. True or false? So this is you, a new health coach, moving into business coach. That's your business coach, and that's your business leader. And as you follow this path that they laid out for you, you're going to have your safest, fastest, quickest way to success. Yes or no?
Yes.
If you try to reinvent the wheel and find the shortcut, make up your own thing or do it on your own, and you disconnect from your team, from your bio network, your chance of success go down incrementally and dramatically every step off the path you go. That's why we say, this business is easy. Get on the path and stay on the path. You've got people that will help you along the way. Keep taking the next step. Keep taking the next step. And soon you'll be the Roger Bannister. Who knows who Roger Bannister is? He's the first guy who ran the what? 4-minute mile. And the next year, 7 people did it. The next year, 30 people did it. Now kids in high school do it. So you do it for yourself, and then you'll be the Roger Bannister for the next generation. And you're going to reach out, and you're going to help them come to becoming a trilliologist. And they can get out of debt And they can have that time for that dream vacation. They can cut back from 6 days a week, being on call, burning themselves to the ground as a health professional, to going in 3 days a week because they still care about patients and they want to do it. Or giving people the chance to do whatever they want with their life. That's your challenge. That's your responsibility, but you got to do the work. And sometimes you're going to be afraid. I got to tell you, I still get in front. This is last year at conference, 2,500 people. My heart was beating through my chest. I was nervous. But you know what? It wasn't about me. I just told myself, you know what? There's somebody out there that needs to hear something I'm going to say. I don't know who, I don't know what, but I'm going to see if I can help one person today. And I was willing to go outside of my comfort zone just to be there and hope that I could help somebody else. And when I did, I found that it really inspires me. So I always try to challenge myself, and I always try to stretch myself. And this is one thing that Whitney and I did about a year ago. This is Dr. Larry O'Grady. He's one of our national directors, and he's a dive instructor. And he's been cajoling us to jump out of a perfectly good airplane from 15,000 feet. And so finally we said, all right, let's do it. Uh-oh. There we go. Finally we said, all right, let's do it. So I found a mentor. He's a certified coach. He knows exactly how to do this. He spent hours with me. Practice, drill, and rehearse. Practice, drill, and rehearse. Do this, do this, do this. When you jump out, you're going to do this. You do this. And then when we got into the plane and we jumped out of it, I just did everything that he taught me unconsciously. And he was there to support me along the way. And I got to tell you, was I scared dropping from 15,000 feet? Yeah. You bet. But when it's a rush, man. When you challenge yourself, think about some of the most difficult times in your life. And I bet you if you look at them in the moment, they were terrible and they were just the worst thing you could ever imagine. But looking back on them, that you overcame it and that you rose above it, it's probably one of those proud times of your life as well. So when you feel that fear, feel the fear and do it anyways. Get your mentor, get a coach, lock arms, and go for it. And my final slide is this. Make a habit of stretching yourself. Walk through discomfort and discover the magic. The formula for knowing if the next step is the right one is, if you feel both excited and scared, that's it. If you are just excited and not afraid, there's no challenge, no stretch, and no growing. If you're just afraid, there's no positive motivation unless there's something you're willing to walk towards, not walk away from. Intrinsic motivation, moving towards what you want. And finally, when you are simultaneously turned on and frightened, do it and watch your growth skyrocket. Thank you, guys.